Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Sports Lab podcast. My name is Thomas Bailey. Alongside me, Alex Miley. Today, we're going to get ready for episode number 15, halfway to 20. That's been a fun ride
No,
so
halfway to
far.
30, you mean?
Yeah. Math.
Nice math skills.
Yeah.
That's why you're an English major.
Yeah, right. That's why I'm a journalism major. We're going to hop right in, though. We got a lot of games to cover today. So the schedule for today's episode will be the NFL recaps of the Week 5 slate. And then we'll go into a little bit on the Thursday night game. Probably not too much. We'll preview it a tiny bit since the next time we meet, the game will be concluded. And then, of course, we'll wrap it up with some MLB playoff baseball because who doesn't love the playoffs in October? So we're going to start it off with Atlanta and Tampa Bay. Let's set the stage here. This was a pivotal game for both sides. The 3-1 Buccaneers are coming into this game looking to emerge as the clear-cut favorite in the NFC South, and they just kind of couldn't keep up in the second half with Kirk Cousins, who had 509 yards and 4 touchdowns in this game, both career highs, 4 touchdowns tying his career high when he was in Washington against the Eagles back in 2015. So we're going to hop right in here. Alex, what are your thoughts on this one? A 36-30 Falcons win in overtime. In my opinion, this was one of the best games of the week, if not the best.
It's Kirktober, baby. That's the biggest takeaway. Kirk Cousins in the month of October. He's like the opposite of the Bills. He's amazing in October, right. And then it's kind of mid the rest of the
breaking news. Josh Allen traded for Kirk Cousins, but the
just for October.
It's a conditional pick. Allen will be back on the Bills after October. Got it.
The Falcons are just trying to tank. Yeah,
literally. Dude.
But I mean, the Bucs secondary is just god awful.
Christian had that one good week against Detroit, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, the Bucs secondary is awesome."
Zion McCollum had a couple of decent games. Yeah, they can't cover shit. I mean, 36 points against Kirk Cousins, who has
Hodge in a walk-off 4-yard touchdown.
Exactly, like they just could not stop. They couldn't stop the nosebleed, and then also the fact that. What was it, like fourth or when it was like 3rd and 20 when they're at the 40-yard line, instead of running like a halfback draw to get in the field goal range, they throw the ball.
Yeah,
like
literally.
you just try and get a couple yards, you get in field goal range, you kick that field goal. Now Kirk has to go it has to score a touchdown with 40 seconds left instead of just getting in a field goal range. I mean, that was just a dumb decision by Liam Cohen to not just get in themselves in the field goal range like that. And end up costing them the game. They don't get to see the ball in overtime, and Falcons are starting to look really good. They're starting to click. I mean, they're looking pretty scary. My pick for them to win the division is starting to look better, and I mean, the Bucs are starting to look more like I thought, a decent team, but not great.
I think that coaching is really what doesn't that sets these two teams apart, especially with how this game was on the offensive coordinator side for obviously just a terrible decision on that 3rd and 20. I don't know why you don't just run the ball and get a couple yards there. We saw the Falcons earlier in this game run I think it was either a screen or they ran the ball on like a 3rd and 13 or 14 and they got the first down. So I mean, you never know what can happen. Obviously, you could break a tackle, get a first down, but at the same time, all you got to do is get your kicker into field goal range, get McLaughlin that kick. Even if it's blocked or missed, whatever. I like that better than the alternative, which was just throw for it, try to get the first down, which obviously we'll talk about the Bills-Texans game later on. That was almost a very similar situation, except they would have already been in field goal range. And so a difficult topic for these Buccaneers fans. A tough way to go out in this one. These two teams are now both 3-2 after a tough game. I do think that the Buccaneers are better than the 3-2 start. Obviously, I think that Broncos game, they just they came out flat. They couldn't really get anything going. But I think they'll play better eventually. Maybe a wild card team. That NFC is starting to look pretty stacked, especially since the Lions, Packers, and Vikings. Only one team can win that division, and the other two are most likely wild cards.
The Bears are now 3-2. Caleb Williams is starting to finally click. That defense is for real. That whole division's tough.
Yeah, and then on top of that, maybe the Cowboys can right the ship. You know,
the Eagles, the Commanders, the Giants.
Commanders right now are looking insane. There's a lot of teams that really can compete in that NFC.
Honestly, the only two teams
better than expected.
The only two teams I think that aren't competing right now, and that division in that conference is the Saints and the Panthers, because the Panthers, and then Derek Carr's missing multiple weeks, so I
Well,
think they're going to take a big hit.
now they're not going to compete. Yes,
Exactly, but I mean, every other team in the NFC, I could see. I mean, right now the whole NFL is wide open. I mean, in the AFC, the only teams that really suck are the Patriots and the Browns and the Titans. I mean, even the Jags sitting at 1-4, like they at least have the pieces.
They ran into a buzzsaw of a schedule.
Yeah, they at least have the pieces where they can go on a run. Yeah,
the Dolphins before Tua was hurt.
Yeah,
it's very tough. But moving along to our next game, our London game of the week, 23-17, the Vikings taking down the Jets in London. It was designated a home game for the Minnesota Vikings, so a home win, if you will. They did a very good job in the opening half, as they did last week against Green Bay. It's just that second half slump that we're starting to see from these guys. It's a little concerning. Obviously, they won again this week. Another very close call, though, as if it wasn't for a last drive interception that Aaron Rodgers threw, which was his third of the day, then we're talking about potentially a different outcome in this game. I did pick the New York Jets to win, so I will apologize to Minnesota Vikings fans. I did not know Darnold was that dog. I mean, at the same time,
Darnold was not that dog.
No, not in this game. I'm just saying I didn't know that they were going to win, basically. I do think that this was a very good game, competitive, especially near the end. But Rodgers, I saw the thing. Obviously, I follow a ton of memes and stuff. Saw this thing about Aaron Rodgers throwing 4 interceptions in his 2021 campaign that he won the MVP in. And then it showed that he had 3 interceptions in this game and 4 overall, and it's only 5 weeks in. So very, very difficult for Rodgers and the Packers right now. Yeah, the Packers. Yeah, the Packers. He's still on the Packers. But and the New York Jets. It's going to be tough, especially after the firing of head coach Robert Saleh as well. Jeff Ulbrich will be the interim head coach for the New York Jets, and the schedule doesn't get any easier either. They are playing a very difficult team this week in the Buffalo Bills. So, Alex, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, Sam Darnold. Actually, I feel worse about the Vikings, if I'm being honest, because the defense looked really good, but it has been recently. But the offense did not look good. Sam Darnold did not have a good game. I don't know if it's because Aaron Jones got injured, if he had the injury, or if it's health reasons why. But I understand Jettas was basically just getting molested the entire game. That's why he drew 5 penalties. Probably could have drawn like 10 to 15. They were just grabbing the shit out of him. And yeah, I mean, there was not much he could really do with how badly they were just holding him every play. But it kind of showed that outside of Jettas, when Darnold just wasn't really able to do much outside of just throwing it to Jettas a bunch of times. That offense really stalled out in the second half. I get the Jets defense is really good, but he just did not look that great. And then defensively, I mean, they're really, really good. Andrew Van Ginkel has really come on as a great, like, do-it-all jackknife, jack of all trades type of linebacker. He can run, defend, he can blitz, he can cover. I mean, he had that amazing lurk right on Rodgers. And then Rodgers, it's weird because he's making some high-level throws. He's still able to move around a little bit. He seems like what I think happened, I think the NFL passed him. I think he's still trying to live in 5-10 years ago where it's a drop back passing and you just kind of pick teams apart. The NFL defenses have figured that out, and they're just too good now. You can't really do that. You have to be able to use motion. You have to be able to like move things around. You have to be able to do these different things that I feel like Rodgers is just like too stubborn to do. And that's why he loves Nathaniel Hackett, because Nathaniel Hackett lives in that world of 5-10 years ago, just drop back, basic routes, let Rodgers read it out. And he's just struggling to be able to do that because of how good defenses are. Obviously, it worked against the Patriots, but I think that's more so just due to lack of talent on the Patriots side. But when he's running into these good defenses, they're sitting in this cover 2 shell, and they're so athletic and so quick that he just can't do the things he was able to in years past with what I think is a decent receiving core. Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams still has something left in the tank. Allen Lazard's been pretty good. Tyler Conklin, obviously Breece Hall, Braylon Allen. There's a good running back duo. So I think like the NFL's just kind of passed him, and he's like living in this world that was 5-10 years ago really good that just isn't anymore.
Yeah, very, very true. So realistically, with the firing of head coach Robert Saleh, obviously, I don't know if you saw the report. I'm not sure if it's fully true or not, but he was going to relieve Nathaniel Hackett of his duties prior to being fired as well. So we'll see how that train rolls along as they move into a potential game between two ugly teams right now in the Bills and the Jets next week. We'll have to see how that plays out. Two teams that have lost back-to-back games, so I guess we'll see what those two teams can do. But we're going to move along.
Bills will never be ugly.
To the Bears and Panthers game. Another one of these games that I lost my I thought it was very funny. Bryce Young playing against his former team, obviously not playing in this game technically. So not former
team. What do you mean? What?
I'm in shambles right now. Bryce Young is playing against a team that potentially could have drafted him if it wasn't for one of the worst trades in NFL history. So obviously Caleb Williams going up against the Panthers, who would have had the first overall pick, so could have been his team. And they dismantled them. DJ Moore, another former Carolina Panthers, just to put salt in the wound for these Panthers fans, had 2 touchdowns in this game as well. An absolute blowout. Not too much to say about this one, but Alex, I'll turn it to you. 36-10 Bears win. What are your thoughts on this one?
I think the Bears are finally coming to their own. Their defense has been really good all year, but now Caleb Williams is really starting to take that step. As I've been saying, he's been getting better every single game. And this is, I understand, against a bad Panthers defense, but this was an elite game for him. He was making some really good throws. This is by far the best game of his young career. He can continue to play like this with how good that defense is. It's pretty scary over there in Chicago. They're a pretty good team right now. So if I'm a Bears fan, I'm pretty happy. For the Panthers, they're awful. I think they're probably going to go 1-16. Maybe Andy Dalton might be able to win one or two more games, some upsets, because it's kind of the Andy Dalton thing: is play really good for a couple weeks, play really bad for a couple weeks, then surprisingly play really good for a couple weeks, and kind of back and forth. So maybe a couple weeks down the line, they'll get some upset they shouldn't have, like they did against the Raiders. But now that they have that win against the Raiders, now that they have that win against the Raiders, at least they don't have to worry about going 0-17. So that's a good thing for Panthers fans. But they are a really bad team. That defense is so god-awful. I mean, their only good player going into the year was Derek Brown, and then he got injured week 1.
Maybe Shaq Thompson, and then he's out too.
Yeah, they can't stop the run. They can't stop the pass. They can't do anything. The only thing they have is that Andy Dalton is a gunslinger and will occasionally have some really good passing games, and Chuba's looked really good. And Jonathan Brooks coming back. The skill positions look all right there. They're starting to look all right, and Andy Dalton can put some pieces together. So they might be able to stay in a couple of shootouts, but there's not much really to look forward to if you're a Panthers fan. I think you want to just end up really, really bad this year and then maybe draft a quarterback. Personally, I wouldn't. I personally would not draft a quarterback if I were them, just because they have so much. They're so depleted in talent.
Well, just keep going the Texas route. You have Ja'Tavion Sanders, the tight end. You have Brooks. Just keep going, man. just take you.
Well, okay, then get an offensive lineman, Calvin Banks Jr.
Move up, yeah, and then move up and draft Isaiah Bond.
I was gonna say at pick, because they're probably gonna end up with pick 1 or 2. I think you just trade down to a team that wants that's really looking to get a quarterback, and then you go and get like a Mason Graham or a Will Johnson. Plus, then you have all these other picks to fill it up. Derek Brown comes back. You start to work on the defense a little bit because you have some decent pieces on offense.
About this offseason that really a lot of people questioned was the fact that Jeremy Chin, their safety, he looked very solid with them. He signed a $5 million AAV deal with the Commanders. This
same
summer.
With Frankie Louvu, two of their better players from last year.
Why don't you bring him back? It's $5 million to a
David Tepper's an idiot.
Yeah, literally. And it's like
he's the worst GM in football, or worst owner in football. It's not even close.
Yeah,
I mean,
he would be the GM.
He would be the worst GM in football. Also, he's a complete idiot. Yes. But so as long as he's the owner, they're probably just going to continue to be extremely poverty.
Oh yeah, a tough one for the Panthers fans to swallow. Obviously, most likely they're not going to win too many more games this season. They do have the Saints without Derek Carr coming up, so maybe they can beat them. Not this next week, in a few weeks down the line, I believe. But we're going to move along to another one of the really bad games from this week in the Commanders and Browns. And, man, what can I even say at this point? Jaden Daniels with another absolutely amazing game. And I can't lie, 34 points on a Browns defense that's been pretty good these last few years. He moved around the pocket. He broke that sack on the one play and then bombs it deep to Terry McLaurin. Perfect throw on the run, rolling to his right. And obviously that drive didn't end the way they wanted it to. But, I mean, still a very good game in this one. 34 points against a very good Browns defense, like I mentioned. And on defensive side of the ball, you only gave up 13, which I understand it's Deshaun Watson. It is the Browns without Nick Chubb. But a very good win for the Commanders to keep their streak rolling. This is now 3 straight wins. And we got 2 of the hottest teams in the league next week playing each other, the Ravens and the Commanders, with 2 of the best dual threat quarterbacks in the league. We'll see how that goes. But what are your thoughts on this one, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, the Commanders are totally shattering my expectations. I had them going 4-13 this year. They already have that many wins. Jay Daniels is completely blowing away my expectations. They've been able to build an offense around him great. I knew he was going to be accurate and have a deep ball, but I just didn't expect him to handle pressure as well as he has. And he has completely proved me wrong. I'm not ready to say that like I was fully wrong until like the full season ends. Like he could just be on a hot run. Like I'm gonna like yeah. Anyways, the Commanders have looked really good. The defense has the issue the first couple weeks is stepped up these last 2 weeks. Granted, they were playing the Cardinals, but the Cardinals offense has looked decent, but they're playing the Cardinals and then they're playing Deshaun Watson and the Browns. And the Browns are just so dysfunctional right now. Their offense is so bad, it's making their defense look worse than it is because they're just on the field so much because their offense can't do anything. I mean,
really.
The Browns just need to blow it up. They need to trade Amari Cooper to the Bills for a 7th round pick. No, but they do need to trade Amari Cooper. Brandon Beane, if you're listening to this, or if you're listening to anyone at all with a brain, please
listen to
call the Browns and trade for Amari Cooper. I am begging you. Please, I am begging you. We need him so badly. Please get it done. A 3rd round pick is not that much value when we have 3 top 60 picks. We need Amari Cooper. Please do it.
Yeah, very true. Like you were mentioning with the Amari Cooper thing, I do think that offense is just slated to continue to get worse, especially if they do trade Amari Cooper. Like it is very much so looking like that is going to happen. So not looking good in the land of Cleveland, but we'll have to see how that goes for them. And now we're going to move into an AFC East showdown between the Dolphins and the Patriots, another one of the snooze fests. It's not much scoring in this game, but the Dolphins finally get a win after Tua has been out. Their first win without Tua Tagovailoa since the year 2019. So interesting to see for them.
I thought Fitz was able to get some wins in 2020.
He didn't play. Oh, wait, maybe he did play in 2020.
Yeah, no, it's 2020, I think.
2020 then, whatever. But either way.
Because remember that win against the Raiders on Christmas Eve where he made that, like,
he got the face mask thing. Yeah, you're right. You're right. But either way, it's been a long time since they've won without Tua at starter, and they did that in this game. Very good by Tyler Huntley to just manage the offense somewhat well in this one. He's obviously had a little bit more time to get involved with the offense over the course of practice and things of that nature. So chalk it up as a win for them, and this was officially the final game in the Jacoby Brissett era in New England, as Drake May is slated to start next week against Houston, which I'm not going to lie to you, I don't think this is the week that they should have started him. You're going up against an absolutely amazing Houston Texans.
And they should have done it week 8 after you play the Texans and Jets.
Yes, very much so true. It'll be very interesting to see what Drake May can do next week. But for this week, they stuck with Jacoby Brissett. He, again, could not get over 170 yards passing, just not looking too great for him. So Dolphins beat the Patriots 15-10. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the Dolphins won this game, and I'm not surprised. I think that the Patriots are a really, really bad team. They had a week 1 Fugazi win, and then they almost beat the Seahawks, but the Seahawks are kind of looking like they were a fraudulent 3-0 team anyways. They don't look like they're all that great. I never said anything different, but it's not because I thought they were going to go 3-0, but not because of the way they're doing it. I thought it was going to be because of elite defense, and their defense just has not looked great. Gino's actually been quite good this year, surprisingly. But anyways, back to the Dolphins. I mean, yeah, they won without Tua. That just shows how bad the Patriots are. The Dolphins, their team is not that good, and without Tua, they're really, really bad. Tyler Huntley's just not that good. And they were able to get 15. I mean, the Patriots were a Jalen Polk heel away from winning this game, but I did pick the Dolphins to win this game. It was one of the few wins I had this week. I did not do too hot. I think I went 6-8 in my record predictions. There was like 3 on-defense games that I took the wrong side of, like 3 games where I was like, kind kind of a pick-em game for me, and then I picked the wrong one in all three of them, and that
The
was kind
only
of
one so
different.
far that I've gotten wrong this week, I picked the Patriots over the Dolphins, and I picked the Jets over the Vikings.
You picked the Bills over the Texans.
No, we haven't done the Bills over the. I'm saying so far.
Oh, so
Those
far.
are
Oh, yeah.
the ones we've talked about on this.
Oh, okay. Let's see. I did. Let's see. I picked the Dolphins, and then I picked the Vikings, but I picked the Bucks. I picked the Panthers, and
Whoa, you picked
and
Carolina.
I just said Red Rifles. Screw it. I just thought maybe he'd continue playing well. That wasn't really. I didn't put much thought into it. I just said I want to pick the Red Rifle because why not? But yeah, I mean, this game there's not much to talk about. For being honest, it's two dog shit teams. I hate both of them. So I wish they could have tied 0-0.
Yeah, I got 6 games wrong this week, which one of the ones I got right, actually, which a lot of people disagreed with me, was an AFC South showdown between the Colts and the Jaguars. I had the Jacksonville Jaguars winning, as many people did and didn't, obviously. But they ended up winning a thrilling 37-34 shootout between Joe Flacco and Trevor Lawrence. Who would have thought we'd see the day? But this Jacksonville Jaguars team potentially looking rejuvenated on offense against a rather bleak secondary in Indianapolis right now. I think their leading pass defender right now in the secondary is Nick Cross, a safety out of Maryland from like a few years ago. Not exactly who you want leading the secondary when you got a guy like Kenny Moore out there. You lost Julius Brents for the year, obviously, in the secondary, so that's a big hit to take, but nobody has stepped up in his place. The secondary looked awful again this week. On the same tone can be said for the Jacksonville Jaguars defense, who has also looked very bad in the secondary. This was just one of those games that just turned into a shootout quickly. You couldn't really understand why or how it was happening. It was just happening, and then the Jacksonville Jaguars find a way to get their first win of the season. No team in the NFL is winless now after this week. So what are your thoughts on this one?
Wait a minute. I mean, I picked the Colts to win this game, but that's because I didn't know that the Press Taylor gave up play calling duties. And you saw how good the Jaguars offense is when Doug Peterson's calling plays. Just shows how if Nathaniel Hackett's the worst offensive coordinator in the league, Press Taylor's probably number 2. Then you might say like Luke Getsy might be 3. But Press Taylor is absolutely awful. He is a terrible coach. You see the first game, they finally go to Doug Peterson and they're much more aggressive approach. T-Law is actually pushing the ball down the field. Brian Thomas Jr. looks like an absolute baller. I wanted the Bills to get him for so long, but Bean didn't have the balls to trade the second to get him, unfortunately.
Him and Xavier Worthy have both looked insanely good.
Keon's looked better than Xavier Worthy. I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed with Xavier Worthy one bit at all. He's got 4 touchdowns. 2 of them are running, and one of them was a blown coverage. It was a 3-yard rush and then a blown coverage right after his touchdowns. Keon has the same amount. They had 2 touchdowns, 2 legit receiving touchdowns.
No, I
think Keon's looked better than Xavier Worthy. I'm not impressed one bit by anything I've seen.
And receiving wise, yes, I would agree with that statement with Coleman being the better receiver. But if you're talking about just pure like player overall, I'd pick Worthy for the simple fact that he offers more things as well, though. Like he offers the eye candy and stuff. Coleman can't.
He's a gadget guy.
He's a Coleman across the middle and like, oh my gosh, he's gonna get the jet sweep. You know, like that's not gonna happen. Nobody's gonna think he's ever getting a jet sweep. But with Worthy, I think he's one of those receivers that could take a jet sweep and take it 65 yards to the house if the blocking is like correct. Coleman
but
obviously can't offer that.
I think the difference between Coleman and Worthy, receiving wise, is big enough where it doesn't matter. I just think Worthy's a bad receiver. Hey, Wano, I looked something earlier. It was like the rookies, like the percentage of like routes that they like win or get open. It was like they were ranking all the receivers on like route win rate or some stat like that, basically like how much they're getting open and stuff. The top of the list was like 30%. Guys were like 30. Keon was like number 5. And out of like all of the like notable rookie receivers that have played legitimate snaps this year, Xavier Worthy was in dead last at like 7%. Everyone else was at least 12% or higher. He was in dead last by himself. I think Xavier Worthy has not been good. What I said coming out of the draft for the Chiefs is he could be a really good gadget guy, and that's all he is. He's not a good receiver. He's a good gadget guy. Much, much, much different. I'm not impressed with Xavier Worthy at all. I'm totally fine with the trading out and getting Coleman. I'm mad that we didn't get Brian Thomas Jr. because I think Brian Thomas Jr. has been an absolute dog, and I wanted him all draft process. Imagine if he had Josh Allen throwing him the ball right now.
Yeah, very true. Very, very true.
And then on the
Anything
Colts
else
side
to
of the
add
ball,
on that Jaguars game? Yeah, okay.
I just want to say on the Colts side of the ball, I mean, Joe Flacco at that age still being able to dice it up like that is crazy. It's impressive. The passing attack obviously is better with Flacco in, but I still think I'd rather have Anthony Richardson just because I think the rushing attack is much, much better. They were facing a really bad Jaguars defense, really bad Jaguars secondary. I think that's part of why Flacco had looked so good. Because against the Steelers, Anthony Richardson was absolutely cooking before he got injured. I'm still high in Richardson. I still expect a lot out of him. But with Flacco, I think he's safe. He's kind of like an Andy Dalton's going to give you a couple really good games because they already said AR is the starter until he's healthy, or Flacco's the starter, but once AR is fully healthy, he's going to be the starter. They already said that.
Right.
So it's not like if Flacco's taking him over, but I think Flacco's one of the best backups in the league and is perfect for situations like this with how injury prone AR can be.
Yeah, very, very true in that regard. I do think Flacco is probably the best backup quarterback in the league. I feel like a team like the Raiders right now, who just made a switcheroonie at the quarterback position with Aiden O'Connell starting this weekend against the Steelers. That was made official earlier this afternoon, so we'll have to see how that goes for them. But speaking of these teams that haven't really been able to live up to the hype, it's been the Buffalo Bills these last couple weeks, and we're going to finally get into the Bills and Texans game. The Texans taking home the victory 23-20 at home in Houston for this one. A very tough game for the Buffalo Bills offense. Josh Allen went 9 for 30, which in 27 years, that is the lowest completion percentage ever recorded by a quarterback since the stat was ever. And I mean ever.
No, for someone who's attempted over 30 passes, that's not the lowest completion percentage.
No, obviously, if some guy comes in and spikes the ball 3 times, 0 for 3, worst
no,
ever.
this is just the lowest for someone who's attempted at least 30 passes.
Yes, but very bad either way from Josh Allen, 9 for 30 in this game. Couldn't get anything going. The offensive line was getting pressured constantly. Ryans was blitzing Josh Allen and the Bills too much. They couldn't handle the pressure. They couldn't handle the assignments. The running backs were getting eaten alive in pass protection, which was a very big problem in this game. Josh Allen got injured near the end of the game. His head slammed off the turf. A lot of questions surrounding that, obviously, with the whole smelling salts thing that's been going around. I do think Allen was fine to come back into that game. Not sure what everyone's feeding too much into that. But either way, near the end of the game, obviously, we're going to discuss the first through third down plays. At the end of the game where the Bills had the ball near their own goal line, in my honest opinion, in that situation, I don't think you run the ball per se. Hear me out. I don't think that they run the ball in that situation 3 straight times. I think the first play you could run it. I think the second play, maybe go for those screens that Brady loves, maybe some 5-yard curl, maybe something like that. And then go for balls to the wall. If it's 3rd and 6, I wouldn't be opposed to running a quarterback power with Josh Allen and trying to go get the first down with your quarterback, or just drawing up a play to go and get the first down in a situation like that. But in the situation they were in, they should not have thrown the ball 3 times in a row. It should have been a run, force the timeout, the screen pass, which is a 95% success rate,
or another run. Another run wouldn't have been
another
awful.
run would have been fine. And then that's 2 in a row. I mean, at the same time, though, the screen pass gets us prepared for the third down more.
The problem is we were so bad in screen passes that day. I would have rather just ran the ball because we were actually running it decently. James Cook didn't have a bad game.
No, he didn't. And see, the only real issue for me that I had was just
we averaged 5.5 yards a carry.
Yeah, but the thing is at the end of the game there, you got to get a little bit less aggressive in the throwing game. You can't throw the ball 3 straight times in that situation. Obviously, if they didn't have any timeouts in that situation, we would have went to overtime because that completion over the middle, they wouldn't have been able to just get that 3-5-yard completion, run up and spike it. They wouldn't have had time to do all that. But they did get the time. Ka'imi Fairbairn hits the long field goal. Buffalo loses in this one.
Well, if they had no timeouts, we would have just needed once. But no, I completely agree. The way you described, the way we should, that's exactly what I said. Run, then run or short pass on 2nd down, and then 3rd down, you just do whatever needed to get the first down. But clearly what the real issue started was on the intentional grounding when they didn't take the 10-second runoff. They decided to not take the 10-second runoff because apparently they thought that they could get into scoring range. You should have just taken the 10-second runoff. There's only 30 seconds at the time. You just take the game to overtime, and they decided not to do that. I just thought it was dumb with how bad the passing attack had been.
Yeah, that's not going to get talked about enough about the fact that CJ Stroud completely sold because they were in field goal range. They were in field goal range.
The defense played so well in that second half. Like, that's why even though we lost this game and it looked really bad on offense, I truly believe we're 3 things away from like being back to where we were. And 2 of them are just people getting healthy. We need Khalil Shakir healthy. We need Taron Johnson healthy. We need Amari Cooper. And I truly think that is it. I think our O-line played decent. I mean, Connor McGuffin was the highest rated PFF center this week. Obviously paying a PFF. But still, I mean, I think our line played decent. We averaged 5.5 yards per carry. I think the issue was no receiver could get open, so Josh had to hold on to the ball, which made us allow a lot more pressures. They were blitzing, and while they were sending the extra guys, we still couldn't get people open, and that's why Josh was facing the pressure. And DeMeco Ryans realized that. He's like, I'm just going to run man blitzes. No one can get open and make Josh run for his life. And I think that's more so what happened than the O-line played bad. I thought the O-line played decent.
That's what I was saying was they just – that's too much.
Yeah, that's why I think if we get Amari Cooper, then you put Keon – you repeat, Amari is the X, Keon is the Y, Shakir in the slot. Then you have Samuel and MVS and Matt Collins as rotational pieces. They should only be rotational pieces for certain scenarios. They should not be on the field that often, maybe playing 30, 40% of snaps. And then obviously you have Kincaid and Knox, you hope can get it going, and then the running backs. The offense, I think, is great then because now we have another guy outside of Shakir who we trust to be able to separate. Or maybe they start using Samuel, right? Who knows? I hope so because he is a separator. They just have been using him as like a gadget guy, but he's much more than that. And then on defense, we held a high-scoring, high-flying offense to basically 20 points other than gifting him those 3 points right at the end. I mean, and then the fourth quarter, we have the Terrell Bernard interception. We have the sack and forced fumble. Like our defense was heating up. The issue was on third down, we couldn't get a stop because Cam Lewis is one of the worst football players I've ever put my eyes on. He is so god-awfully terrible. And now Taron Johnson should be back soon, which means Cam Lewis does not have to step on the field anymore, thankfully.
The fact that Marcus Ingram was not playing is absolutely sad.
Well, I think it's probably, do they like Jamarcus in the slot? I don't know if he's a slot guy. I mean, yeah, that's logistics. I don't really know.
A slot corner is very similar to where they were putting Lewis most of the time.
Or Ingram. So, yeah, I mean, I don't exactly know. But anyways, we don't have to worry about that anymore with Taron Johnson coming back, hopefully this week. He was limited in practice today, but I think he finally plays this week as he was limited last week. I think he's getting really, really close to being able to come back and play. Even if you have a cast in his arm, I don't need him to get interceptions. I just need him to not be Cam Lewis. I just need him on third down to be able to actually cover the slot receiver and setting up, because that's usually what happens in third down is what you do is you go and look for your guys in the slots to get open and get those 5-10 yard routes to just pick up the chains.
Right.
But because we were getting them into second and third longs. We were stopping the run. Other than the big Nico play, the boundary wide receivers didn't really do anything. I mean, Christian Benford has allowed 6 catches in 5 games on 15 targets. Like, he has absolutely been locked down this year. And Rasul Douglas, other than the bad play to Nico, has been pretty good this year. Jamarcus Ingram's been pretty good in coverage this year. The problem is over the middle of the field when they had Balen Spector and Cam Lewis, it was just open and open and open. Now you get Bernard back. Dorian Williams is continuing to look better. Dwayne Carter looked really good in Ed Oliver's absence. I really like what I'm seeing out of this defense other than Cam Lewis, and that just gets fixed by Duran coming back. So I think we're fine on defense. I'm really excited to see this defense moving forward. Offensively, I just think we need a big-time separator. And I think Amari Cooper is the perfect fit. I'm not saying I would hate Davante Adams. I just think there could be a lot more that goes wrong with Adams. The cap situation, it's probably just a one-year rental. We'd have to give up more picks. And the fact that he's more of someone that I feel like would get mad if he's not seeing a bunch of targets every week, unlike Amari Cooper, who I think just wants to win. I think Davante's kind of more like a Diggs. He's like, I want to win, but I want to get my pieces. I want my targets. Amari seems like he's just like, I just want someone who can accurately throw me the ball when I get open, and Josh can do that.
Yeah.
So
right,
that's that.
Right.
So that's my long-winded take on the Bills so far.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I had a lot of like mixed feelings on this game. Obviously, Josh Allen had one of the worst games I've seen since his rookie season. He had
Yeah.
Matt Collins wide open down the field. So to kind of hint at your separation point there, Matt Collins was wide open and Allen completely missed the throw.
No,
Matt
I think
Collins
that's on Matt Collins. That's on Matt Collins. It hit his hands. He tracked the ball bad. He tracked the ball bad. I truly believe.
Allen threw it over to
I
the
think
right.
that
Collins had to turn back, and
Yeah, I think that's 90% of Matt Collins. I think he tracked the ball bad and it hit his hands. He should catch that. I
I
truly
mean,
believe that.
I think
He's
still
an
at the
NFL
same
receiver.
time.
You catch that. I think Matt Collins just ran the route. I think Josh thought he was going to stay more upfield. He kind of went in a little bit more when he was throwing the ball. He kind of like faded in a little bit when he should have just kept running straight. And then Mac tracked the. I think that's more in Matt Collins just tracking the ball really bad, and then it went right through his hands. I truly believe that is 90% Matt Collins' fault.
Right, right. Either way, though, the Bills took a tough loss in this one. There just wasn't too much going right on offense, other than I think James Cook should have got more carries than he did. Obviously, maybe get the offense going a little bit more. They should have realized by halftime that Josh Allen was not having a good day. Like this was not going to be the game where Josh Allen wrote the ship at halftime and came out and threw 3 touchdown passes and saved the Bills in the second half. This is just not one of those games. We all knew it from watching the game, let alone from a coaching perspective. So I feel like they should have learned from the first half. They should have learned to run the ball. I understand you're down big in the game, but at the same time, we've been down big at halftime, 20-3, the exact same score against the Baltimore Ravens a couple seasons ago. And what did we do in that game? We didn't panic. We ran the ball. We worked in the pass occasionally. And what did we do? We came back and won that football game. So just want to say that. And speaking of Baltimore, our next contest is my opinion. This is the game of the week. Very, very close between the Falcons and Bucks in this one. The Ravens and the Bengals. 41-38 overtime winner. A head-scratching play on the Bengals' behalf after getting the fumble in overtime, and they couldn't convert it into any points. Obviously, a bad snap and hold
Oh, yeah.
on the field goal attempt that really cost them this one. Justin Tucker sinks the game-winning field goal, and the Ravens escape with a big win for themselves as the Cincinnati Bengals are now 1-4 on the NFL season, a very tough road back to the playoffs. I understand it's not the most competitive AFC we've seen in recent years, but at the same time, coming back from a 1-4 start is very, very hard to do in this league, and it's going to be a tough uphill battle, especially since it's not been on Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase in that offense. He has 12 touchdowns to 2 interceptions this season. That's his stat line in the touchdowns to interceptions ratio. So realistically, it's not been his fault they've been losing these games. This defense just can't stop anything. And this is a third straight game where they've given up over 30 points to a team like the Commanders. They give up over 30. They just can't seem to really stop these opposing teams, these opposing NFL offenses. And it's really cost them their ability to win games, especially in this one. It was very evident. 38 points and they lost. That can't happen in today's NFL.
Yeah, I still have hope for the Bengals because they have Joe Burrow playing like an MVP right now. They have Jamar Chase playing like he wants that. He wants to beat Jefferson's money. I mean, T. Higgins was finally healthy. That offense is really clicking. I mean, yeah, they've scored over 30 points in 3 straight games. Offense is looking real every single game. It seems to get better and better. That Burrow Chase connection is looking absolutely on fire right now, which is awesome for me, who has him in 2 money leagues. So it's great to see the way he's absolutely cooking. And then the defense has been really bad because they just can't get any pressure. They're outside of Trey Hendrickson, they have absolutely no one who can get pressure. So then Lou Amarillo has to start calling up blitzes to get pressure, and he's just not that type of guy. He's someone who wants to get pressure with 4 and sit back and force defenders to really attack the secondary or force quarterbacks to attack the secondary, and then they try and force mistakes that way. But without getting any pressure, these quarterbacks just have all just sit back and just dot up the defense because the secondary isn't that good either. Losing like Chidobe Awuzie, Jesse Bates, Dax Hill's now out for the year. They just have no one over there who can really cover that well. And
then on top of losing DJ Reader in the middle.
Exactly. That defense is really, really struggling right now. I still think they're right to ship. I still think they make the playoffs. I mean, they have 2 games against the Browns, who, even though the Browns usually have their number, the Browns are awful this year. I still am not super high on the Steelers. You saw they almost beat the Ravens. They can clearly And I just think their schedule, because they also have the Raiders to play, they have the Broncos to play, they have the Chargers to play. I think those are all winnable games. Um, I'm trying to think who else they have the Saints to play. They have the Falcons to play, the Bucks to play. Like it's not like they're playing anymore like juggernaut, like top 5 teams in the league. They've already played some of their toughest teams. They already played the Ravens. They already played the Chiefs. They already played the Commanders, who are looking really good. Like I think their schedule, they have a lot of really winnable games that can get them back in. And I think they could end up as like the 6 or 7 seed still. Obviously, I don't think they're going 12-5. I think they could sneak in at like 10-7. But you're right, the AFC hasn't looked great this year. And then for the Ravens side, I mean, they're firing on all cylinders right now. Real question is
they don't play the Falcons or the Saints, by the way.
The Bengals?
Yeah, no.
I thought they played the NFC South because
they played the Panthers because they both finished last in the division last year. With the 17th game, you play one team based off certain divisions. The division they play this year
the Falcons did. Then how come the Falcons and Chiefs played? Because the Falcons did not win that division last year.
I'm not sure. All I know is they play the Giants, the Eagles, the Cowboys, and the Commanders they've already played.
Huh, that's weird then, because that's where I was thinking.
I only looked it up because this week they play the Giants on Sunday night. So I was like, wait, but they play the Giants. So is it the Giants division or the Panthers division they play? And then I thought to myself, they've already played the Commanders. So I was double checking before saying anything.
Yeah, now I'm just so confused on why the Chiefs play the Falcons instead of playing the Bucks.
Still, though, that's even more winnable games, if anything, because they're playing the Cowboys defense that hasn't looked great either. And on top of that, they're playing the Eagles, who are iffy, and they're playing the Giants. So,
I know the issue. I was getting my divisions mixed up. That's the problem.
Right.
Yeah, I was thinking the Bengals and the Chiefs were in the same division for some reason. That's what was going on.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. I do. Yeah, they do play exactly the Giants and the Eagles, who haven't looked great, and the Cowboys, who haven't looked anything special. Those are all winnable games for them. So yeah, exactly. Their schedule is very winnable for them to go like 10-7. And then for the Ravens, I'm not fully believing in the Ravens until they show in the playoffs. They've looked really good these last couple of weeks. They obviously just spanked us, but until I see them actually go and Lamar have a good playoff run, they're still frauds in my opinion.
Yeah, very fair. We're going to move into our next game. It is the Broncos-Raiders, 34-18. Denver takes them down at home. Bo Nix had his best game of his young career so far, in my honest opinion. He looked very solid in the pocket. He had a couple touchdown passes. The Broncos did just enough to really solidify themselves as a decent team in the AFC. And I've seen a lot of people saying that the Broncos and Bills have the same record. And yes, that's very true. Very different ways that these two teams got there, though. The Broncos have skirted by a couple teams and then beating the Raiders by double digits this week. This is also the final game of the Gardner Minshew era as Aiden O'Connell starts next week, as we mentioned before. So what are your thoughts on this one? I think this one was one of those irrelevant games that nobody really thought was going to turn into much, and then a lot more scoring than a lot of people figured.
Yeah, so the first thing I want to say is it's weird. When was the last time a defensive player of the year race came down between a linebacker and a corner? Usually it's just pass rush or dominant. This year, I think the top 2 in my depoy pick is a off-ball linebacker and a cornerback. It's Fred Warner and Pat Surtain. Pat Surtain is on another level right now. The way that Broncos defense honestly does not have that much talent, but because of how good Pat Surtain is, they've basically been able to rush 5 like every single play because he's just puts whoever he's facing on an island. He's locking down half the field, so then they can double cover on the other side and still send 5. And because of that, they're having that extra guy. They're being able to blitz so often because of how good PS2 is that it's just bringing their defense to another level. Because Vance Joseph is their defensive coordinator. He's someone who loves to blitz, and now he has someone
the Broncos.
Exactly. Now he has a Pat Surtain to be able to lock down half the field that really opens up, that allows him to blitz so much more. And this defense is looking for real right now. It is looking really scary. It's looking really good. And then Bo Nix finally didn't look awful for once. I still don't think Bo Nix is that good, but this is the first game he wasn't complete dog shit. So that's something for them. Javonte Williams looked good. The offense looked really good.
Drop back and throw the ball to the other team this time.
Yeah, he threw the ball past the line of scrimmage. He had positive passing yards.
Yes, I know.
And then on the Raiders side of the ball, they just lost Christian Wilkins to IR. It's not looking great right now. I mean, maybe you hope AOC can bring some life to this offense, but I don't really think AOC is much of an upgrade over Gardner Minshew. I just think Antonio Pierce had to do something because of how bad Gardner's been these last few weeks.
Yeah, it's very fair, but we'll see how that works out for them. Of course, they got the Pittsburgh Steelers coming up, so not a favorable matchup there. But again, we'll see how they end up doing overall. Antonio Pierce maybe can get more out of O'Connell. We'll see. But moving along to your Defensive Player of the Year candidate, Fred Warner's team, who falls in another division game to the Arizona Cardinals, 24-23. They had this one for the majority of the game and just fell off, similar to that Rams game near the end. Obviously not as extreme of an effect, but another game where they could have won and then didn't win. There's a chance that the 49ers could be 4-1 right now, but where they sit, they have not looked very good.
They're 5-1. All three of their games are one score.
Yeah,
all three of their losses
5-0 technically.
That's
and they are 2-3 right now. Not looking very good. The 49ers just haven't seemed to find a way to get anything done. And fun fact, if the Seahawks beat them this year, it will be the first time since 2017 that the San Francisco 49ers lose to every team in the division. So
wait, since when?
Since 2017, the year when they had Nick Mullins at quarterback. It was the year before Jimmy G came over.
All right.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense. Yeah.
It was not good. So what are your thoughts on this one, the Cardinals with a comeback win?
First, Brock Purdy is showing that he is not a franchise quarterback. He is a good game manager. And second, Christian McCaffrey is just showing how important he is to this offense. Because the running game's fine, but the difference people aren't realizing is Christian McCaffrey's as good as Jordan Mason, if not better at running the ball, but he's also an elite receiving back. He's probably the best receiving back in the league, which Jordan Mason is not. He's not a good receiving back. So because of this, they can afford to put a linebacker on Jordan Mason. So they're sitting in a cover 2 shell the entire time. And Brock Purdy, the way you beat cover 2 shells is just with elite quarterback play. You have to be able to pick it apart and dot it up and down. And Brock Purdy just has not been good enough. Yeah, you can see injuries, but he had Ayuk finally playing good. Debo and Kittle are getting more healthy. He has basically all of his pass weapons, but Juwan Jennings has been really good this year. Like he has those weapons
still solidly on the ground.
Exactly. Like he has plenty of weapons to throw to, and he just can't seem to beat these cover 2 shells. Now, when McCaffrey's in there, the reason last year they didn't have to worry about this is because McCaffrey's so good in receiving that they're not going to put a linebacker on him because no linebacker in the league, other than maybe his teammate, is going to be able to cover him. So they have to put a safety on him, which forces them to go into more of like a cover 1, cover 3. And that just opens up so much more, so much of those crossers, because now now with the safeties.
Yeah.
Yeah, now the safeties.
It opens up the deep ball too.
Exactly. Now that they're in this cover 1, cover 3 look, because the safety's on McCaffrey, it opens up the space between the linebackers and the safeties because the safety has to play farther back because he doesn't have the other one, which allows those crossers that Shanahan loves to run and Purdy is very accurate and can hit. It opens those up and really opens up that pass game. But without that, Purdy's got to be able to
see. That's the reason why Purdy fell
and
so far in the draft. He can't read the defenses. He has to be able to see what is open to him. He's not the kind of guy where his accuracy is going to throw somebody open. He's not the kind of guy that can read the defense from the snap. He can say, okay, they're coming down with this guy on Kittle. They're double teaming Kittle. Ayuk will be open across the middle. He's not that kind of guy either. The only real way to make up for his weaknesses is to have the dual threat player that McCaffrey is, being able to run and receive the ball. They have to bring down that safety. They have to do those kinds of things, and it can open up the field. He is useless almost without it, and it's really showed in this second season of him as the quarterback. It's just not been looking too good. They're off to a 2-3 start. A very big game against the Seahawks on Thursday night. We'll see if they can get it done. I think there's a chance, considering the Seahawks are frauds, in my opinion. Which, speaking of the Seahawks, we're going to move into their game now. The Giants and the Seahawks, a 29-20 win for the Giants on the road. This is another one of those games I got wrong, as was the last one. This was a very tough one for the Seahawks to take. DK Metcalf played one of his worst games I've seen of the season, obviously against the Giants team that I don't think has a true number one corner.
What do you mean?
Jackson,
You don't think Deontay Banks is the number one?
yeah, right. No. It's not at all. Especially when they had Nick McLeod on the active roster. That's just disgusting. That's disgusting. As a Bills fan, I saw him in the preseason.
It's
and
like
he
the
didn't even
Bills
deserve to be in the preseason.
It's like the Bills starting Cam Lewis.
Yeah, except for the fact that we're doing that because of an injury. They were doing it because they
suck.
Yeah,
because they're the Giants.
Yeah, literally. I mean, they are the Giants, and they are winners this week as well, for whatever that may mean to some people. The Seahawks really they came out flat. They really couldn't make up for anything. The defense, if it wasn't for that defensive touchdown in this game, they would have lost by potentially 4. Is absolutely terrible. That's a touch, and then there you track them. That's 36-13. 36.
Well, then you also have to think that the Giants had the blocked field goal return for a touchdown. So I wouldn't say 36.
Yeah, at the same time, though, this is just a bad game for the Seahawks. They couldn't really put it together. At the end of the day, they ended up losing and continue to prove me right on why I don't believe in the Seahawks to go to the playoffs or be one of these teams. I've actually, on the other podcast I do, I've had a bunch of comments saying that this guy doesn't know what he's talking about with the Seahawks. I didn't see any of those comments on this last episode, though. Didn't see any of them. I wonder why. Because you played the Giants and you lost. I'm sorry, man, but until you prove that you can beat a championship caliber team like the Niners, like the Lions, like those other teams, I don't think that you're going to be able to prove to me that the Seahawks are actually going to be competitive in the NFL this season. And yes, they've played the easiest schedule in the league. They have a CFL schedule to start the year. And everyone's like, oh my God, the Giants, like another free win. And then you lose. I'm just saying it's tough to see. It's tough to work into. But Alex, what are your thoughts on this game? Another tough one for the Seahawks.
Ryan Grubb is an idiot.
Yes.
Does Ryan Grubb know what a run play is? It's where So Ryan Grubb, if you're listening, a run play is where when you take the snap, you hand it off to your running back.
No, that'd be the quarterback.
You let him run. Yes, so the quarterback, he takes the snap and then he hands it off to his running back. Do you know the person that stands next to him? That's called a running back. So what happens when you take the snap and you hand it to him, he runs forward and he gains yards. And then the useful part of this is when you actually run the ball with your running back, it brings the linebackers up, which makes it easier to throw the ball. Because now they have to think, oh, maybe they might give it to the running back instead of just passing it every single play. And then it opens. It's like elementary level shit. And I know, mind blown that when you run the ball and even the threat of a run game makes it easier to pass the ball. Who would have thought? Oh, wait, everyone fucking else. Like,
literally
5 carries to Kenneth Walker.
Especially after Kayvon Thibodeau got injured.
Like, especially after what he did last week, where he had over 100 yards from scrimmage. He had 80 yards rushing against a very good Lions defense and 3 touchdowns. Kenneth Walker is your best skill position player. I think he is a better running back than DK Metcalf is a wide receiver. He is absolutely electric with the ball in his hands. You saw against the Lions, they ran it twice, I think maybe 3 times in the first half for like 9 yards. They scored 1 touchdown. In the second half, they got the run game going. They actually started running the ball. He had like 10 carries in the second half. They threw it to him a couple of times. They scored 3 touchdowns, almost 4 if Geno doesn't decide to throw it. Like, they were absolutely moving the ball up and down the field on the Lions in the second half. What was the main reason behind this? Because they were running the ball, which opened up the pass game. Because Geno's actually looked pretty good so far this year. The problem is they don't run the ball, so it's just pressure on him to throw it 50, 60 times every single game. And that's just not a successful game plan, even though you have a very good receiving core and you have Geno, who's been very, very good. If you don't even attempt to run the ball, good things don't happen. And then even when they scored that touchdown drive that brought him back in the game when they were losing 23-13 or whatever, and they scored a touchdown really quick to bring it 23-20. Like 40 of those yards were Kenneth Walker receiving yards. He started throwing it to Kenneth Walker, gave it to him in space, and he was getting 10, 15 yards a chunk because he is absolutely electric with the ball in his hands. How are you, Ryan Grubb, not seeing this, be like, oh, I have to give him more touches? It doesn't make any sense. When the ball is in Kenneth Walker's hands is when the Seahawks offense is at its best, whether if it's running the ball, throwing the ball. They were raving about him all camp. Mike McDonald was saying how good Kenneth Walker is. The first 2 years, he was so good for this team. He was so good at Michigan State. That's why he was one of the top running backs drafted in his class. He is absolutely electric with the ball in his hands. And for them to have 5 rushing attempts with him, it just, I understand their offensive line isn't that great. They're going to be a pass first team. I get that. It makes sense why they're a pass first team. But to completely abandon the run from the start of the game, yes, I am biased because I have Kenny Walker in 2 money leagues, so I want him to do good but at the same time, even though I may be biased by getting mad at this, everything I've said is true. So I'm not like I'm just saying I'm spewing bullshit. I'm saying facts. I'm just saying it because I want fantasy points from him.
Right. Yeah, I get it. A very head scratching move by them. Obviously, Grubb needs to fix that in these next few weeks, especially against the beat up 49ers team. This is the week that you can really do that and kind of take advantage of those things, anything to make the team better heading into
the Niners' run defense just isn't even that good. That's how you beat the Niners. You're not going to be able to throw on them with
especially
how good their pass rushing secondary.
Like a lot of people say, well, they have Fred Warner in their front seven. I honestly don't understand why I hate the fact that they say Fred Warner's in the front seven because he's more of a pass, but he's one of the only guys in the league that's just a better cover linebacker than he is a run stopper. He's
good. I still think he's a stud in the run game. I think the thing is, though, outside of Nick Bosa with Javon, I'm pretty sure Javon Hargrave went on IR. I think he's injured. That D-line is very uninspiring outside of Nick Bosa right now. So you just run the opposite side of Nick Bosa. And then who's the other linebacker? Eric Armstead. Dre Greenlaw. Is he back?
Yes.
I know but either way, I doubt he's 100%. I haven't been able to watch much Niners so far this year, coming off a torn Achilles. So try and run it away from Nick Bosa. Try and run it away from Fred Warner, and there is going to be some success available there if you run it like to the other side. But don't try and throw it with Nick Bosa being that elite of a pass rusher, Fred Warner being the best coverage linebacker in the league. You have Travarius Ward. You have Talanoa Hufanga. You have some very good pieces at secondary. It just makes no sense. This is a game where you want to establish the run. If you just try and throw it a bunch of times, your offense is going to be absolutely obliterated.
Yeah. We'll have to wait and see. It's very close to happening, though. That's tomorrow night, and we'll also talk about it here at the back end of the NFL section. But we have 3 more games we're going to hop into really quickly. Packers and the Rams, 24-19. The Packers take down the Rams. Another one of those games I felt like shouldn't have been as close as it was. The Rams are severely beaten up, and the Packers just couldn't take advantage of that. Jordan Love was a little bit of an injury-prone guy, and he didn't look too great, but obviously Tucker Kraft with 4 catches, 88 yards, the 2 touchdowns. He was absolutely insane in this one as well. So we'll have to see what he does in future weeks, see how they kind of involve him a little bit more in that passing game. But the Packers take care of business on the road at SoFi. So what are your thoughts on this one, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Rams are still a very good team. I think as long as you have Matthew Stafford, they're going to be competitive. I just think they need to get healthy. The good thing is some reinforcements are coming. Cooper Kupp's going to be back after their bye, and I think that makes their offense exponentially better. Puka should be back probably in like 3-4 weeks. But now that you have, because right now, I mean, Tutu Atwell, Demarcus Robinson, Jordan Whittington, like Colby Parkinson, they're all right. Like if they're like your 4th, 5th, like 6 options, like depth pieces, they definitely have some value. But the fact that those are his main targets, he doesn't have a go-to guy right now. He's just having to spread it around. It really kind of hurts how much that offense can do. Now you're going to be getting Kupp back in week 7. And you saw how good Kupp was. It's not like Kupp's washed. I mean, week 1, he had an absolutely insane game. And then he got injured week 2. He was having a pretty good game up until getting injured. And Stafford just didn't have anyone to throw to. Obviously, Kyren Williams is an absolute stud. Getting him back, I think that offense will finally start clicking again. I think they'll finally start getting healthy. And then the Packers side of the ball, I feel like they're just missing something in that receiving core. Jaden Reed's looked pretty good.
Number 1.
Tucker Kraft's looked pretty good. But Dontavian Wicks, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, Luke Musgrave, they've all been pretty underwhelming. Josh Jacobs has been inconsistent. He's had some really good games. He's had some really bad games. So the run game's inconsistent that way. But I think they kind of need to go out and get another receiver. I don't know if they want to just keep trusting these young guys, but really outside of Jaden Reed and Tucker Kraft, it hasn't really been that inspiring, if I'm being honest. And I think that's what's kind of hampering their offense is they don't really have everyone is talking about how deep this is because everyone's shown flashes in the past, but a lot of these guys aren't really stepping up to the plate now that the pressure's on them, and I think it's kind of hurting their offense.
Yeah, it definitely is hurting their offense, and they really, especially since I saw a couple throws in this game where Love just went to step up, and for some reason he can't put full power into his throws yet. And I feel like give it a week or two, and he'll be able to do that, and they'll be back to their regularly scheduled program, if you will. So we're gonna move into the Sunday night football
Well, I
game.
just want to say one thing real quick.
Oh,
I just decided I wanted to look up like the 49ers like stats. So the 3 games that they allowed 98 or more rushing yards, they lost all 3. The 2 games that they allowed less than 98 rushing yards, they won and they dominated. That's how you beat the Niners. You have to be able to run the ball. I think the Rams had 98, the Vikings had like 106, and the Cardinals this past week had 168. Like, and those are the other 2 games. They had like the Jets and Patriots had like 60 yards of rushing, and the Niners dominated them. Like, if the
yeah.
Seahawks are going to want to beat them, they're going to have to run the ball. So I just wanted to say that because I decided to look up the stats.
Nice, very fair. Moving into the Sunday night game, though, the Cowboys Steelers. This was a snooze fest for at least the first half of it. It was very interesting to see. Obviously, with the weather delay, it backed up the game severely. Literally over an hour that we had to wait for Sunday night football to kick off. Ended up taking until 1 in the morning. But the Cowboys prevail with a last-second touchdown at the end of the game here to win it 20-17. Very close to losing this one after the Pat Fryermuth touchdown that won me $62 on FanDuel. So thank you so much.
You have a FanDuel account?
Yeah, I do.
How?
My dad.
Well, when you turn 21, you should make your own FanDuel account, and then I'll refer you as a friend, and I get $50, and you get $50.
Oh shit! Yeah, I got you. But anyway, because I'm not 21 yet, that's probably not something I should have said. But anyway, the Cowboys did win this game at the last second with the Turpin touchdown. So it really came down to what happened on that very last drive. So Dallas winning this one, a must win in my opinion for the Dallas Cowboys. They had to have this one. For the Steelers, they dropped their second consecutive loss after losing to the Colts last week. That is now back-to-back games they have lost. They are the other team in the AFC, like the Bills, that have lost back-to-back games after starting the season 3-0. Chargers have a chance to do that this week coming up as well after having the bye week. They could lose their second consecutive game, and they are playing Denver, I believe. So we'll see how that happens for the Chargers. But back to this game, Cowboys-Steelers. What are your thoughts on this one, Alex?
I think the Steelers show that they're just not a very good team. They're mid. They have a very good defense, and I like Justin Fields for fantasy because he can run the ball, and he's been pretty good as my fantasy quarterback the last 2 weeks. I picked him up as because Justin Fields can run, and I hope he stays the starter over Russell Wilson. But at the same time, I mean, that passing attack is just not that great, and you go into a team again like the Cowboys where the way you beat them is being able to run the ball. You can't really throw into their teeth, and then you have Najee Harris, 14 carries, 42 yards. Aaron Shampkin, never heard of him, and Jonathan Ward also getting carries. I don't know if Jalen Warren's injured, but
Oh, Shampkin? Yeah, he played at the back end of this game. Yeah, he was fine.
yeah, exactly. Like they're just they averaged to 3.5 yards a carry, and that was more so because Justin Fields had 6 for 27 yards because he's pretty good. Like they just weren't able to get a run game going, and if you can't run against the Cowboys, the defense actually is pretty good because they have a good secondary and they have a good pass rush. And then on the other side, yes, Dak had the 2 picks. He's the first player ever to throw 2 interceptions on different days in the same game, which is kind of funny. It's kind of a funny stat, but anyways, I mean, 350 and 2 touchdowns against a very good Steelers defense. He played well enough. He got him the win in a must-win game. I mean, yeah, Jalen Tolbert with another good game. He's kind of slowly moving into that wide receiver 2 role. Brandon Cooks is kind of becoming that wide receiver 3. But I mean, CeeDee Lamb 5 for 60. Jake Ferguson's pretty good tight end, 6 for 70. So yeah, and I think Brandon Cooks isn't even healthy right now. But I think that receiving core is starting to look a little bit better and better every single week. They've played better the last couple weeks, and they've moved to 3-2. This is the first time they're over 500 since they won week 1 against the Browns, and that kind of doesn't count. So, because it's the Browns. Right. But I like the way that the Cowboys are going. I think they could win that division. I hope they don't because I have a bet with the Eagles winning that division. And then Pittsburgh is just nah. They're exactly what I thought they were.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to move into the Monday night football game now. The Chiefs and the Saints. Chiefs hosting at Arrowhead. Obviously, we know about the ending with Derek Carr getting injured. They are set to start Spencer
Yeah, I
Rattler
was going to say.
at quarterback this weekend. It will not be the other guy from Fresno State, Jake Haener, at quarterback. So I think that's the right move, in my honest opinion. You got to see what you've got in the higher upside rookie of the two that you have. I think Haener is a solid player.
Wait, Haener's a rookie? I thought he's a year 2 guy.
He might be a year.
Yeah,
two guy.
I was gonna say. I was gonna say. I
But
thought he was
either
last
way, I
year.
think you got to go with
Yeah.
the guy you have higher upside in, being him. Obviously, I do think that this is a very important game for the New Orleans Saints coming up this week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But I don't expect Spencer Rattler to be the guy to lead them to victory in that one. So we'll have to see what he does. But back to this game. The Kansas City Chiefs offense, no Rashee Rice, no Isaiah Pacheco, and they didn't look too bad in this one. They played a very solid game. They got down right to the goal line before Saunders got that interception. The brother, of course, of the Chiefs, Saunders, who is a backup dancer for Taylor Swift. Of course, they had to mention that. And they mentioned that right before he gets the interception on the broadcast as well.
What happened? I was like partly watching the game because I was out to eat, and then we were on like an
Well,
Uber, and my phone
right
was
near
dying.
The Chiefs got the ball right near the red zone.
No. Like, what did you say? So, like, there's
There's two
guy who got
Saunders
the
brothers.
so the guy who got the interception for the Saints is a backup dancer to Taylor Swift.
No, his brother is. So there's two brothers. It's Colin and then and I can't remember the other guy's name on the Chiefs, but the Chiefs guy is a backup dancer for Taylor Swift.
Well, then how is he a Chiefs guy? What do you mean? What's his connection?
He plays for the Chiefs. He plays for the Chiefs.
And he also is a backup dancer at the same time?
Yes.
Okay.
I thought he was on the other side, his brother, the Saints player, they were mentioning this right as his brother stopped Travis Kelce at the goal line and then got the interception on the very next play as well. Back-to-back
Interesting.
plays. The only 2 plays in the entire game he was relevant, and it was right before that they talked about his brother or whatever. That it was very weird. But the Chiefs win convincingly, 26-13. The Saints offense was very flat in this game outside of Rashid Shaheed bombing touchdown in this one. That won me $62 in this game as well. I like to bet like very cheap and I bet $2 on him, Olave, and Kamara to score touchdowns on this drive, and then Shaheed ended up being the guy that scored the touchdown. So won me more money. So congratulations to me for more money. Won off an absolute funny game. This was just one of the weirdest games that I've seen in recent memory. The Chiefs weren't really close to losing at all, in my opinion, in this game. The defense, this is not your typical Chiefs win. The defense was the reason why they just kept continuing to fight and keep playing as well as they did. And they got the job done. Obviously, Worthy had one of those little 3-yard touchdowns that he likes to get. But Chiefs win convincingly, 26-13. Alex, what are your thoughts on the final game of Week 5?
So any Chief fan out there that wants Andy Reid to retire and does not like Andy Reid, because apparently they're out there. Didn't know that until I saw Twitter this week. You are an absolute retarded moron. You can't be more stupid if you think you don't want Andy Reid. He's the best coach in football. I mean, what he is able to do to dial up. They were without Rashee Rice. Travis Kelce is having the worst year of his career. He's 36. Their receiving core consisted of Juju, Mecole Hardman, Xavier Worthy, Jody Fortson, and Justin Watson. And yet you somehow, as Andy Reid, you cook up a game plan where Mahomes had over 300 yards of rack and did not have to throw a tight window throw. You were able to get people open and getting 10, 15 yards of pop on every single throw with a bunch of bums. Basically, Juju hasn't been relevant since he started doing TikTok dances. Travis Kelce is kind of washed. Mecole Hardman hasn't been talked about in 3 years. I don't like Xavier Worthy that much. I don't think he's that good. I mean, he only had 3 catches, but Jody Fortson, never even heard of him. Noah Gray's
backup tight end
again. Yeah, but Mahomes still has 3. Obviously, part of it's Mahomes being good enough to be able to dish the bar around and continue to find the open guy.
That's why you mentioned that there weren't any tight throws, because that means that he's scheming them so well that even though they're not that great, Mahomes didn't have to make an amazing throw to get them open.
Exactly. And like that's what at the end of the day, That's what it is. The Mahomes-Reid connection is just so good. As a Bills fan, I want Andy Reid to retire, but not because I think he's bad, because I don't want him coaching anymore. I don't want the Chiefs to be that good. If Andy Reid said I wanted to come to Buffalo, I would say bye-bye Sean McDermott. I would not think about him for another second. Bye-bye in a heartbeat. Get the fuck out of Buffalo. Like, there's levels between this. Andy Reid's on a whole nother level compared to McDermott. And that's a big reason why the Chiefs are much better than the Bills. Other reasons too, I'm not going to get into. But Juju Smith-Schuster had 7 catches for 130 yards. That dude got cut by the New England Patriots, and we see how bad their offense is. He wasn't good enough to make the New England Patriots roster. And yet Andy Reid's able to cook him up for 7 catches for 130 yards.
Yeah, very true, man. It's another one of those Chiefs games that just, never really a doubt, in my opinion. This was actually, in my opinion, not another one of those games. This was the first this season that I thought that the Chiefs didn't have a chance to lose in some way, shape, or form. The other games there were a lot of different reasons why they could have lost. Obviously, the first game being the toe of Likely, the Kyle Pitts thing, the Bijan Robinson getting a 4th and inches handoff instead of just sneaking it with Kirk Cousins. A lot of different things that could have really lost them games that they somehow managed to win as well. So we're going to move along to our final thing we're going to talk about for the NFL this week, which is the 49ers and Seahawks game tomorrow night on Amazon Prime at 8:00 p.m. The Niners on the road in Seattle. The Seahawks trying to win another game at home after last week losing at home to the Giants. So we'll have to see if they can do that. Kenny Walker is a big factor in this game, as you just mentioned, with all the stats you brought into it as well. For the 49ers, though, it's been about that health of Christian McCaffrey. Obviously not going to play again in this game. A very, very important game for the 49ers to win. If they win it, they would be atop the NFC West. If they lose, they fall to 2-4, which would be the farthest under 500 they've been since the year 2018. So interesting to see. We'll have to see how they do. But for the 49ers here, this is a very important game. For the Seahawks, it is too. They've fallen in back-to-back games to the Lions and then obviously last week to the Giants. So what are your thoughts in this game? Who do you think ends up winning our first game of week number 6?
I think the Niners win this game 27-20. Because I think the way you beat the Seahawks is with running the ball, handing it off to Jordan Mason, and then you get the run game going, and then you hit the play action beyond that because the Seahawks linebackers absolutely suck. They're not very good. So you are able to get this run game, draw these linebackers up, and then you hit those crossers that Kyle Shanahan's so good at dialing up, in between those linebackers, those safeties, and I think they're going to be able to move the ball. And then I think the Seahawks offense has been pretty good. I think Ryan Grubb hopefully finally realizes the way you beat the Niners, the way you score on them is you run the ball first, you get the run game going, and then it kind of opens things up a little bit. And hopefully he actually gives it to Kenny Walker. Who knows if that actually happens, but
right.
I think he does. I think that they look back in the film, and I think Mike McDonald will be like, please give the ball to this guy. He's an absolute demon. But at the end of the day, the Niners are just much more talented than the Seahawks. So, yeah, 27-20. I saw your face. I'm assuming I stole your score prediction.
You did, exactly. My score prediction is 49ers 27-20 as well. I just feel like the Seahawks are starting to fall back down to reality, similar to the New Orleans Saints have as well. They're going up against the championship caliber team in the 49ers if they're fully healthy. Same thing with the Kansas City Chiefs. I think these are two teams that are both – obviously, the Chiefs have done better this season than the 49ers have with the injury containing and stuff like that, playing well even though the injuries have happened and been sustained, things of that nature. But these matchups are very similar to the Chiefs Saints and the Seahawks and the 49ers games. The Niners are one of those teams I just expect to do better than they have. Obviously, this is one that I expect them to win. I don't care about all the injuries. Same thing with the Chiefs. It's just you expect them to win. And then on the opposite side, you got a team that's falling apart in the NFC in the Saints and the Seahawks that are starting to fall back down to reality after having easy games to start their season or winning games that you potentially thought they couldn't win. And here we are where the Seattle Seahawks are finally starting to play teams that aren't, the Dolphins without Tua or the Broncos, Bo Nix in his first career start, or the Patriots who they almost lost to. And you're not playing trash teams anymore, man. You got to actually play and compete against these teams that are good. And the 49ers are going to pretty much just put the nail in the coffin of the Seattle Seahawks for me this week. They have the job solidified head coach. That is the biggest thing, in my opinion, for this game is going to be the head coaching. It's going to be the discipline. It's going to be those kinds of plays, the calling, and what teams play calling do I trust more? It's the San Francisco 49ers by a mile, especially after that terrible performance from Grubb last week. I cannot go against the Kyle Shanahan-led 49ers in this one. So give me 27-20 as well. And that's not to steal your pick because, it just feels like one of those games is going to be a little bit higher scoring. I don't expect it to be 35 or anything crazy like that, but it's right there in the middle, 27-20. The Seahawks fall to the 49ers. And then the last thing we're going to discuss today is going to be the MLB playoffs. That'll do it for our NFL segment for today. So we're going to talk about all four of the NL.
Talk about how your Mets are losing right now.
Yes, they are not. Oh, they are now.
Vientos error allowed to run to score.
Sounds about right. Anyway, we're up 2-1 in the series, but we're going to start with the game that happened earlier today in the Detroit Tigers and the Cleveland Guardians. The Guardians won 7-0 in game one. They had 5 runs in the bottom of the first inning. Lane Thomas had that 3-run homer that I'm sure many Guardians fans are going to remember. On the opposite side of the ball, since then, the Detroit Tigers, 3-0 win in both games since then, back-to-back, including the one earlier today that just ended a little bit ago. So the Tigers have looked very solid this season. Obviously, a lot of people, including myself, had them falling to the Astros in the first round. It's like, oh, it's so cute. They're in the playoffs. Yeah, bye. And nope, not your same old Tigers. Not those cute ones that you see at the zoo. No.
You think Tigers at the zoo are cute?
No, I'm saying like behind glass, you like nothing to worry about, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. These are not your same old Tigers. These are the Tigers that actually come out and win games. And by the way, Tariq Skubal masterclass. And again, realistically, they still have one more game of Skubal left in this series, potentially, if it comes down to it. But back-to-back wins, all 3 games have been shutouts in this series so far. So I want to get your quick thoughts on the series as a whole, and who do you think ends up winning?
I did pick the Guardians, and then I thought the Guardians were going to win this game and then win this series in 4. But I'm going to go with the Tigers in 5 because I think the Guardians get back on track and win game 4. But game 5, Tariq Skubal. They're probably going to – it's on Saturday. He pitched on Monday. That's enough rest. It's playoff baseball. Skubal's definitely getting the nod in game 5. And if you think I'm betting against Tariq Skubal right now, then you are crazy because he is on another – he is a man on a mission right now. Right. Yeah, he hasn't allowed a run in 2 starts?
Nope.
And he's been absolutely dominant in both starts. It wasn't like he was just kind of sneaking out of innings with the allowing a lot of base runners. No, he absolutely dominant performance so far, and I think he continues. He's proving why he's the best pitcher in baseball. So yeah, give me the Tigers to win this series in 5.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree there. I think that the Tigers just have so much momentum going in their favor right now. The only thing that scares me is if this does reach game 5, it will be back in Cleveland, so that Cleveland crowd. But at the same time, I can't go against the Tigers with how they've played, with how Skubal specifically has played so far in his postseason career. It's been short. At the same time, you just can't argue with the production that he's been able to give to the Tigers bullpen to give them the longevity of the bats not performing up to par, and then they can get going 1 or 2 innings, and finally the Tigers have a lead that they can work with for the remainder of the time that Skubal ends up having to leave the game. So I do think that they end up winning in 5 games as well. So I think that they are going to be meeting either the Yankees or the Royals in the ALCS. Obviously, the Yankees winning a controversial game 1, 6-5, a very back and forth moment with the Chaz Chisholm thing. At the end of the day, what can you really do? There wasn't too much conclusive evidence to switch that call, I don't think. I did it personally in the moment. I thought there was a little bit there where you could have made the judgment to say that he wasn't out. Then again, I'm not the biggest Yankees lover in the world. Not that I
I am.
absolutely hate the Yankees, but at the same time,
Yeah,
I
I am.
just thought it was funny because on the post when they won, I said that they had a fluke win, and a bunch of Yankees fans came falling in and stuff. They're like, "Oh, just classic Mets fan, not liking the Yankees and stuff." And I'm like, "You're playing the Royals, a team that beat my Mets in the last World Series we were a part of. Do you think I like the Royals either? Huh? No, no. I don't care who wins this series. This is like the Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowl from a few years ago. I couldn't care less who wins. I hope they die." That was my whole point.
Let's go Yankees. Derek
No.
Jeter, Derek Jeter, Derek Jeter. Yankees, Yankees, Yankees.
Fraud.
Mario
Scandal.
Rivera, Robbins. Did you call Derek Jeter a fraud?
Yes.
I might have to fight you for that. Don't call my glorious king a fraud. Don Mattingly. Let's see. Do I have any more Yankee stuff? Giancarlo Stanton, but when he was in Miami, I have a Miami Giancarlo Stanton fathead. I'm trying to see. Do I have any other Yankee stuff?
Ugh.
Nope, that looks just that corner. Got that. That's my Yankees corner.
Yeah. They did win that game 6-5. The Royals would bounce back and win 4-2. Aaron Boone would come out and say that was a lucky win for the Royals, as a lot of statistics can obviously back that up. But still, the series is going to have its third game tonight at 7 o'clock. So honestly, we're not too far away. Yeah, literally 30 minutes away. So probably Alex is like, hurry up. I want to watch my Yankees.
Now I'm actually going out to the bar to get chicken wings.
Yeah, there you go. That's fire. But I do think that the Yankees end up winning this series. I think that it's just, I don't think that the Royals pitching's bad, but eventually something's going to give way, and Judge and Stanton are going to bat well. They're going to have a good game, and that's going to be the downfall of the Royals in this one. I think that they do take it to 5 potentially. I think it's just Game 5 at Yankee Stadium. I cannot imagine the atmosphere being any more hyped than that for Yankees fans. I
would love to go to one of those.
In general, just baseball fans. But I think the Yankees do end up winning the series in 5 games. I think the Royals have had a very good run. I think they're one of those young teams that you got to look out for in the future. But I think that they're just a little too young right now. I view them a lot like the Houston Texans in the NFL, where last year they played a team in the Browns in the wild card, like the Orioles, where they were just falling apart near the end, and they end up beating them in the wild card. And then in the divisional round, they run into the Baltimore Ravens, who, yes, they've had playoff struggles like the Yankees have, but at the same time, here they are, and they can get at least one series win. So give me the New York Yankees.
The Yankees don't have to run into the Astros like the Ravens did the Chiefs. So we're winning it all, baby.
Yeah, right. And so I'll kick it to you, obviously, for your Yankees Royals. Who do you think wins the series? I think we all know, but
I'm going Yankees in 4. I'm not saying that because it's like some bias. Maybe a little bit. But the reason I think we win tonight is the Yankees are the only team in the MLB to have 50 wins on the road. They're the best road team in baseball, and they hit really well in Kauffman Stadium. I mean, their Kauffman Stadium, I think, is like the 6th easiest hitting park. The Yankees is only 19th. Like they hit really,
like the best, like the worst.
But they hit really well at Kauffman Stadium. When they played Lugo earlier this year, they got him they taxed him for like 4 or 5 runs and only 4 or 5 innings. They were obviously Lugo's a righty. I think he's a righty. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I thought I saw
left.
No, he's a righty. Yeah, Lugo's a righty, and the Yankees hit better against righties. Yes, some of the players on the team haven't had, like Judge is actually 0 for 8 for 3 Ks against Lugo in his career. I think just the 2 games this year. But this is also the 3rd time they're facing Lugo this year. So usually the more and more you face someone, the more and more you get their pitches. And I don't trust this Royals bullpen at all. So then the Yankees win this game, and then you have Garrett Cole game 4 against Michael Wacha. We saw how that turned out. Game 1, the Yankees won. Yes, Garrett Cole didn't pitch well, but I think Garrett Cole will pitch much better in Game 4. I mean, his ERA in the ALDS is extremely, extremely well. It's like under a 2. So I think he's going to be able to pick that up. I mean, he had the first couple of innings went kind of smooth, and then the sac fly, he allowed a run, but then the 4th inning is kind of where it fell apart a little bit for him. I mean, 7 hits isn't great. He only got pulled after 80 pitches. Maybe who knows exactly, but he didn't have an awful start in game one. He allowed 3 earned runs, so it wasn't like the worst thing ever. They were able to get the win. I do trust him much more than Michael Wacha, and that's why I think the Yankees win this in 4. But I think if we lose tonight, I think we definitely win game 4, and then I think it goes to 5, and then I think we win game 5. So I think we still win this series even if we lose tonight, but I think we do win tonight.
Yeah, and then moving over to the NL side of things, of course, my New York Mets are playing currently. We're down 1-0, as you mentioned, but
Through 4.
through 4 innings, yes. But
Ranger Suarez already has 7 Ks.
yeah, I mean, I'm
But
telling you right
already
now,
79 pitches, so I bet you he probably gets pulled after maybe the 6th inning, and then
yeah,
you get 3 innings on that shitty Phillies bullpen. So
yeah, you're right. So we'll see how it goes, but we're
I
gonna
think
talk about the
in
series
time.
as a whole so far. 6-2, the Buff. The Buff. But the New York Mets have played extremely well in that game 1 win. They had 5 runs in the back half of that game in the 8th inning. It was just a
If
masterclass.
I'm Zach Wheeler, I'm sick to my
Yeah,
stomach after that.
he played as well as you can in that situation. He had the 9 strikeouts. He had the first ever player in MLB history to have 30 or more swinging strikes in a playoff game. And
It's disgusting. He allowed 1 hit, wasn't it?
he had 32 swinging
Allowed 1
strikes in
hit.
that game. Allowed 1 hit, 9 strikes, 9 strikeouts. And they found a way to blow it in the 8th inning, giving up 5 runs, another one in the 9th inning. They ended up losing 6-2. So the New York Mets took game 1. Game 2, the Phillies would rally in the second half of the game. We were up 2-0 going through 5 innings. And then all of a sudden it came falling apart after we took that 3-0 lead. They get 3 runs, tie the game. And then in the 8th inning, they get the other 3 runs. They win that game 7-6. Obviously, Mark Vientos, the 24-year-old phenom player who's looked absolutely great so far, hit the 2-run homer in the top of the 9th to tie the
It hasn't
game.
looked great today.
No, and then Nick Castellanos hits the.
Actually, well, he has 2 hits. He does have 2 hits, but he
Yeah,
did have
right.
an error.
The error
He had
in
a
the
double
field.
and infield single.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so yeah, he has been good
But
today, but
still, though,
he has the reason they're losing.
Nick Castellanos hits the walk-off run for Bryce Harper, who was at second base, with 2 outs and 2 strikes, man. It was a 1-2 count, 2 outs, and he just hit the ball to the left side of the field, gets through the infield, and Harper scores to walk it off. Phillies tie the series. Mets were pissed off, as I was, winning the game 7-2 in game 3, and that leads us to today, where obviously, like you mentioned a couple times, and we've all mentioned, I guess, in the top of the 5th right now, it is a 1-0 Mets deficit. If they can muster up the strength with the bats at the end of the game and win this game, they would move on to the NLCS to take on the Padres or the Dodgers. We'll get to them in a minute. But what are your thoughts on this series? Who do you think takes home the NLDS series, the first Mets-Phillies playoff series ever?
I think whoever wins this game wins the series, because I understand that the Phillies blew game 1 Zach Wheeler. They're not blowing another Zach Wheeler game. And
No.
playoff Zach Wheeler is he's a god. He's on another level.
No, yeah.
And pitching against his former team like the Mets, who didn't think he was good enough to be on their 2015 postseason roster. He said before the series that he's got like a chip on his shoulder. He wants to really, really show up against the Mets to prove them, like, yes, he was good enough. And he showed that game 1. I think he continues that fire. Game 5 at home. Yeah, if the Phillies win this game, they win the series, because I think Zach Wheeler's going to be like, I'm pitching all 9. I'm going to pitch a 9-inning shutout. Like, I'm just winning us this game. So I think if they're able to pull this out, I want them to, because I have a Yankees Phillies World Series bet to like $5 to only win like 40. It wasn't like anything crazy. So like money wise, I want them to. Also, I'm not a big fan. I don't really like the Phillies because my dad's a Phillies fan, so I like to be anti-Phillies. But I dislike the Mets more because I'm a Yankees fan. They're not one of my least favorite teams. I do hate the Red Sox. I do hate the Astros, and I do dislike the Orioles more. So they're not my bottom 3.
Just 4. Anyway,
yeah, just 4.
yeah. But moving into the series, on my perspective, I'm in a very similar boat to you, where I was going to kind of mention that, where whoever wins this game, it feels like is going to win the series. But at the same time, we saw that, like, I understand the Mets last series where we had the 1-0 lead. We blew Game 2, and then Game 3, we ended up rallying late to win that game. If it wasn't for a Pete Alonso master home run that he hadn't hit a home run since September 26th. He hadn't hit a home run since September 26th until that moment.
Gators legend.
September 16th, sorry.
Gators legend, Pete Alonso.
Yeah, I know, but Pete Alonso, absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. But I don't think that happens this time around. I don't think that that's how it's going to go. So this is a very pivotal game. Obviously, with the Phillies leading 1-0 right now, I think the Mets are a second half of the game team anyway. I do think that the Mets pull out a 3-2 victory today in their home stadium, Citi Field. I think we win this one and move on. As you mentioned, if the Phillies win this game, they win the series, in my opinion, as well. I think that they probably win 5-2 or something like that in Game 5. I think that the bats will be a lot better than they were in that game, and they'll come to life a little bit sooner than they did and win that one. But we're going to move into the NLDS's second side, which is the Padres and the Dodgers. The Dodgers took Game 1 in a close battle. The Dodgers would win that game due to a Shohei Ohtani 3-run homer in the bottom of the second inning. The Padres have started out their games very, very hot for some reason. They start out the games extremely hot. They were up like 6-0 at one point against the Braves in 2 games. They're absolutely insane. They ended up being up 6-0 after 6 runs in the bottom of the second inning, the top of the second inning, against the Dodgers in Game 2, which they won 10-2. They would then win Game 3 as well, and they have a 2-1 series lead, which they can close out the Dodgers at home in San Diego tonight at 9 o'clock. The game starts. Who do you have winning this series? Do you think Shohei Ohtani and the Dodgers come back, or do the Dodgers choke another one in the playoffs?
Yeah, the Dodgers aren't winning this series. The Padres are built for playoff baseball.
They are the best team in baseball right now.
I honestly, even though I'm picking the Yankees Phillies World Series because I have like being a Yankees fan and having money. Yeah, I agree. The Padres are the best team in baseball as of this moment. I mean, I could still see them not making the World Series because baseball's like crazy like that. I could still see the Phillies beating them in a series, and I'm going to continue to pick them. But yeah, the Padres right now.
Just throwing it out there.
You're right. I'll give him that. It could be the Mets. I'm just saying, like, in my biased perspective because of betting. But right, yes, I think the Padres right now are playing the best baseball. Fernando Tatis is on another level right now. You have Dylan Cease, even though his first outing wasn't great in the playoffs against the Braves, he kind of got rung up a little bit. I think he'll settle down. And the Dodgers always go cold in the playoffs. Their bats seem to go cold. They're kind of similar to the Yankees. And the Padres are just one of those teams. I mean, yeah, Fernando Tatis, I think, is like in the playoffs, in the first inning of playoff games, he's 5 for 6 and has 2 walks. He's gone out once. His on-base percentage is, let me do the quick math on that. His on-base percentage is .875 in the first inning of playoff games in his career. I think has like 2 or 3 home runs. I don't really know how to explain it other than that's just absolutely insane. Like,
oh yes,
he is built for playoff baseball, and at home that crowd's going to be absolutely electric. I think they win this game. I'll go 6-2, and I think they close out the series.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree there. I think that the Padres have been, in my opinion, the best team in baseball, especially in the second half of the year. They've just been very extremely hot. I think the Tigers are similar in that aspect. They just don't have the playoff experience that the Padres have. They've been here. They've done this in the playoffs a few different times. They've been in that playoff, especially if they go up against the Mets. They played the Mets in the wild card a couple of years ago. I don't like to remember that, but I mean, they did. And I mean, at the same time, this is one of those series for the Padres where I feel like it's almost inevitable that the Dodgers are going to choke another playoff series. You're going up against the hottest team in baseball this year in the Padres. I think that it's just the writing's on the wall for the Padres to win this series, and I think they do that. I'm going to say they win it tonight as well in 4 games. I think it very well could take 5, but if it takes 5, I think the Dodgers could make that comeback due to the fact they'd have the momentum from winning Game 4 on the road and then back at home again at Dodger Stadium. I think that's a very electric crowd. I think they could win in that as well. So that'll be it for today's episode. Thank you guys so much for watching another episode of the Sports Lab podcast. I had a pleasure doing this with you again, Alex. We can't wait to do it again later on this week on Friday, most likely. we'll do another episode, and we'll get you NFL Week 6 predictions.
And preview any Game 5s from MLB, because it'll be Game 5 by that point. Friday, Saturday's Game 5s.
Yes, very true. So we'll get that all out to you guys as soon as possible. Thank you all so much for watching another episode, and we'll see you all next time.